if we jump to 800 doors and we need now like another level of management in there, is that extra layer of management going to get paid for with that growth? Or are we just going to break even on it? And now I've got another large salary, more risk for the same level of profit on my end. Like, what's the benefit of it?
Welcome to Unfiltered, the official podcast of propertymanagement.com. I am your host, Dylan Scroggins, joined by founder, president of propertymanagement.com, Mr. Matt Speer, and I have a special guest today, Mr. Ed Riggenbach. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, life in Milwaukee doing good?
Yeah, it's above 50 today, so we'll take it this time of year.
Yeah, that's a very Milwaukee Midwest response. I respect it. So what's it like? Does everyone just, with winter coming, is everyone just in a doomsday mindset now, or like trying to squeeze the last bit of summer? Oh, I know it's not summer or fall, you know what I meant.
Yeah, people take advantage of days like this. So, get above 50 on a Friday afternoon, the sun's out. You'll see people back out on a patio, grabbing one last patio drink before the weather still starts to turn. So we'll squeeze out every second we can get.
And you guys had the Northern Lights here recently. Did that come down to you guys, or?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So it seems to be coming more and more. Like I feel like we just had it a year ago. So I don't know what's causing that to hit, but definitely we'll take it when we can get it.
Yeah, I did not hear about that.
Yeah, it dipped down. I'm down in our Florida spot, but I was sort of bummed because all of our friends and family were like posting videos and photos and stuff of the Northern Lights, and I never experienced the Northern Lights, and I missed out. It was my Midwestern chance there.
It's wild. We had it like a year ago too, so they'll probably get it again. Seems like it's more and more. I saw a headline of why, but I didn't read it. So
yeah, I'll be up in Canada for a wedding, I think early next year. So maybe I'll get lucky then. I actually have no idea how the Northern Lights work, but anyway. So Ed, you're in Milwaukee. So are your management companies? It's in Milwaukee, and years in business, door count. Catch us up just with where your business is at.
Yeah, so our office is in West Dallas, but it's basically right next to Milwaukee, same. And we've been in business since 2014. Yeah, I started on my own, and then 2018 I merged with my partner Matt. And 2020 hit, COVID. We had started a couple other businesses together, and he was just looking for something different, so bought him out in 21. And now we've been kind of at that 500 door count, give or take, for like the last 6 years, and been consistent. We do mostly single family homes and duplexes, mostly in Milwaukee County, but we're starting to branch out of the county a little bit more and get a larger footprint in the southeastern Wisconsin area.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you joining with us today. We're going to cover a lot. I know you also have a co-working space business. I know you're also in business with your wife, who you've just told us is pregnant. Congrats on that. And then, but just kick us off, rewind. How did you get into property management? We always like to intro with this because we know people are typically not in kindergarten wanting to be in property management. So walk us to the beginning. How'd you get in this world? And yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah, I just kind of fell into a job in property management right after college and bounced around in that, did some student housing stuff, managed the owner of that company's personal portfolio in Madison, and then ended up in Milwaukee, worked for a couple different companies in town here, started managing foreclosures for a guy that did that for one of the local banks. And he taught me how to renovate homes and manage contractors. And then he started to let me take on some clients under his portfolio or his business, and got licensed. After a little bit of that, it was kind of mid-20s, egotistical. I'm like, I feel like I can do this better on my own. And the stars aligned. One of my brothers wasn't really doing anything at the time, is much handier than I am. And then my other brother was moving out of Milwaukee out to San Diego. So he let us rent his house. And my brother Tommy and I kind of just dove in and started taking any door that we could get, posted on Bigger Pockets a lot, and grew like a weed, and didn't realize that we were kind of growing a disaster, and had to kind of drive through that and figure out how to turn the bus around. But yeah, it was really kind of random occurrences, one after the other.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel like a lot of people, if they knew what it was going to be like building a property management company, Like if they had like that full picture of all the things that go wrong and the challenges, they'd like probably go back and be like, no, like I probably shouldn't do this. But it sounds like you just powered through and figured it out. And what were some of those early challenges?
We didn't know what we were worth, and we just didn't know what we didn't know. So try to do too much ourselves, not hiring experts to help us in areas, especially from the accounting standpoint. So it's kind of made some missteps that we had to catch up on. And then I say the biggest misstep was I was our client's realtor, I was their general contractor, and I was their PM. And for some reason back then I thought, well, if I'm going to give you everything, I should give you a discount, which now it's why would I give you a discount if I'm packaging this up so perfectly? I should be charging more for it. So that was the biggest one. And then having a little bit too much ownership or like sensitivity if things didn't go well for a client, like, and realizing that this isn't my investment. If they're not ready for the downsides of real estate investing, like that's on them to cover. I can't own every outcome for somebody. So charging more and being comfortable with telling people bad news.
Yeah, I feel like go ahead, Dylan.
No, I was going to say, were you flying solo at that time, or was your brother still partner with you in the business?
So I was the sole business owner, and so my brother was more of an employee and helping out. So he would do some maintenance, he would show some houses for me, kind of, Swiss Army knife of whatever was needed for a couple of years to get going. And then ultimately he's just not a big city guy. So he moved back up north where we're from in middle of Wisconsin. So,
so you're 500 doors now. So like, what was the big breakthrough as far as like, some of those early challenges and then, really scaling it up to something, substantial over, 200-300 doors, I feel like is always that number where it's like starts to scale out well and you got like a fully built out team.
Yeah. For me, it was a pivot point of shut it down and be a smart person or merge with a competitor. So after a couple of years in, Milwaukee's a small city and started to connect with some different competitors. So Matt and I were in the same point. It started about the same time. We both had around 300 doors. We were both pretty sick of it. Just wasn't really working out that well financially. It was super stressful. So we would always joke over drinks of you buy my company, no, you buy mine. And then it was kind of a last ditch effort on both ends of like, all right, let's put it together and see if we can make it work. And the partnership worked really well. We started to enjoy it again. And then with combining 200-300 door companies, we kind of hit those scale points that we needed to be able to afford the right systems, the right people, the right partners. And that didn't happen overnight. The first 6 months sucked, but we've really wanted to keep both of our staffs. But like two companies that weren't making money, like it was just an unrealistic thing. And every company's gone through the change. And as much as employees are like, I hate this, I want it to change, they all think, cool, you're going to go change that thing over there, that person. This doesn't have anything to do with me changing. So we ended up after 6 months churning through almost both of our entire teams. And that got connected with Profit Coach, and they helped us figure out our actual numbers and get on the right path. And so yeah, for me, the cheat code was find somebody to partner with and put it together.
When was that again?
That was 2018 that we did the merger. So
yeah, is he still involved in the business?
Nope. So we opened our co-working space together in 2020. And then, like a lot of people, COVID just kind of changed what they're looking for. He had a couple of kids at that time and was just looking to do something different in life. So we had what I would say the most friendly buyout. We signed the paperwork and grabbed a beer, and everybody to this day thinks they won. Like he thinks he got a great deal for what he got paid out. And I'm just happy with what he's doing next. So it was a win for everybody.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard a story like that, because typically you hear about people being bought and sold. You don't think about people literally combining. So that's awesome.
Well, that's what I want to dig. That's what I want to dig into, because I think in my experience, like that should happen more often. And I think that a lot of business owners, like property management company owners, I think they sort of just don't know how that would work. And it's like you described like that friendly relationship where it's like, hey, I'll buy you, you buy me, and it's just you guys are sort of building that relationship, I think, in that way. But yeah, a merger is just combining forces, and there's a lot of opportunity that can come from that. So like, how did you, like, what were some of the like semantic, like, how did that work like from a business deal standpoint? Like, was it one like, how does a merger work when it's not, the two side, one entity going away and, one staying?
Yeah. I mean, for us, how we got there, I would say it was just unreasonable honesty about it. Like we were just, both really clear of what wasn't working and why, what we wanted it to be. And our philosophy was always like, everybody should be able to win. That's always been my concept with wanting to manage for clients and why I thought I could do it better than other companies is it's not that complicated. Like the owner should be able to get the investment they're looking for. A tenant should get a reasonable house. An employee should get a reasonable place to live. So Matt and I both shared that. That made it really easy. And then just having that, Saturday morning conversation of bring all the skeletons in the closet, throw it on the table and figure out if it's going to work or not. So once we got past all that, the legalities of it, we just looked at the books of each company, and it was almost like a flip a coin situation. And talking to attorneys, we had basically his LLC bought my company, and then part of that purchase, I just owned. He had 51% and I did 49% to start because you got to have somebody if rubber hits the road can make the decisions if needed. And I just dissolved my LLC and all my employees moved over to his company from a payroll standpoint.
Nice. Yeah. Cause it's kind of like, hey, here's our chips on the table. Who, in your situation, it was pretty equal. Like one pro tip in there that you'd mentioned is like, someone should be the decision maker, like a 50-50 business relationship. Like that doesn't work out in a lot of cases. So, but yeah, I think that's really cool. And then it sounds like, you discovered Profit Coach and really started to level up the, did that also come with like NARPM scene, or was that, were you already part of like some of those professional organizations and conferences and those types of things?
No, NARPM came after for us. There's not really a Midwest chapter of NARPM, so it's not big in Milwaukee. And so I can't remember how Matt found Jordan at Profit Coach. So we jumped on a phone with him and they were, I think, newer and just getting started at that point too. So we were lucky enough to get involved in their early days. And yeah, some of the stuff, like looking back, it's stupid. Like obviously a negative number times a positive number is just a bigger negative number. But I think so many property managers think they can just grow out of the, loss. And it doesn't work. Like you got to figure out how to get the door to that now profitable situation before you can start to build on top of it. And yeah, so it's really rudimentary stuff that they helped us figure out on the front end. And then once you figure out that foundation, it was able to go pretty well from there.
Yeah, speaking of NARPM, that's where we originally met. It was a late night happy hour, and there was some magician in the corner. I think we were the only three guys not very interested in said magician. No offense to him. Big NARPM fans, not so much in the magician. So tell us about now. I don't know the percentage, but I feel like, at least in my line of work with recruiting, I do come across a lot of husband and wife duos who are running a property management business. Tell us about, and hopefully your wife will listen to this, just of course, be careful with your words. But yeah, we'd love to hear what it's been like bringing her on the team with her skills and strengths, and how it's been different with, yes, your wife, but also with a second partner now in this next stage of growth.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long recruiting process. I'd been pitching it for quite a while. I'm not that phenomenal at managing people. It's just not my skill set. And it's been something I've been looking for a while. But to be able to hand that over to somebody that's not a partner and have that much ownership around the people end of the business, which when it's such a large part of any business, would have been difficult. So, we had our first kid. She had through maternity leave, and then her career is going to have her on a plane a lot again. So it just worked out for our family of right time, right place, of good time for her to transition. Otherwise, I was going to have to make a move. And I think we're like 4 or 5 months into it, and we've honestly realized that we immediately needed help. So we are just getting started the last month and a half of executive business coach to make sure we're on the same page, that we don't implode the business or our marriage with the change. And that's been super helpful just to clarify, what are the actual problems? How do we get to it? how do we make sure we're not just playing a whack-a-mole and putting out fire game every day? So that coach has been super helpful the last month of putting things in place. And yeah, it's just kind of making sure she feels she has the reins to get after it. And, hardest part for me is to don't jump into the G chat, don't jump into the email, just let it be and let the team take care of it.
Yeah, that one, I feel like not jumping into the handing the reins off and then not jumping into the Google chat when it's, your wife taking the lead there. Smart move on multiple levels. So yeah, my wife has been, when we were flipping houses and doing like our, building our like rental investment portfolio, she started doing like our designs for, basically the kitchen layouts, all the material choices, like all the finishes. And I always joke, and I think it's very, like, I should do some sort of like Google Sheet analysis on this, but I think that we probably made like at least 20 to 30% more profit because she was making those decisions. And she just stopped asking me. She's like, I'm not going to ask you what the kitchen layout should be. I'm just going to do it. I'm like, okay, I think that's probably the right move.
Yeah, I think that's the next stage we have to get to is just completely remove me from situations and let her run it, because the feedback already has been, employees enjoy it more. It's just so much better at working with people and coaching than I am. So when you figure it out, just kind of get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah, smart.
Well, just to zoom out a little bit, would love to hear. I know you're heavily involved. You mentioned Profit Coach, NARPM. See, they have a good pulse on just the PM industry as a whole. What are some things that you're seeing right now with your PM group that you'd think would be helpful for other people to pay attention to as well, just in regards to industry trends, forecasts, etc.?
I feel like tenants and owners' emotions are getting more and more insane lately, or just at a higher level. And I don't know if that just has, obviously politically our country has a lot of differences or where it comes from, but I feel like we have a lot more emotionally driven conversations with tenants. I don't know what the solution for that is, but I do think it's kind of making sure we're leveling up the team to be able to handle that. We're dealing with people at their, hardest moments in life of moving always sucks. So they're moving out, moving in, security deposits. There's a lot to deal with. And then on a monthly basis, they're just paying their biggest bill of the month. So it shouldn't be that surprising that anytime we talk to a tenant or an owner, like emotions are high, but it just seems to be getting more and more. So, that combined with all the AI talk and how do we automate things, I feel like we've made a lot of mistakes of automating too much to the point like we've removed the ability for our team to act like they're humans and connect with people at this point. It's just like, I don't know, this is what the lead simple told me to send this email or this text message. So I sent it, not really understanding what the person was going through. Maybe the situation's different. So that's the biggest shift that we're trying to make with Courtney coming in is how do we make sure the process works, we have the right AI to lift people up, but make sure that they know that, hey, you're still here to be human. So if you're involved in a situation, you have to meet people where they are and then adjust the tools to not pour gas on a fire.
Yeah. And I think we talked a lot about like the professionalization of the industry. And I feel like, when you have tenants that sort of go nuclear, whatever's driving that, I think a lot of it's sort of the baggage that they have. Like maybe previous landlord was, it was self-managed and they were slumlords, or maybe it was just a kind of unprofessional realtor that had some other things going on that didn't respond well, or like whatever it might be, they come with baggage. And so there's that balance of like the property management company being the professional, having the team that's really trained up on all the best practices and like approaching it in the right way. But then a lot of times I feel like those property management companies that are like more professionalized also have more automation and tools. And so then that makes things like less human, less relationship driven. And so it's like, how do you balance the two? I think is big for the industry right now.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot more coaching out there that you can start to find for your team to kind of lift them up and make sure they have the kind of emotional skill set to handle it and be there for tenants when they need to. And also realize if the tenant's freaking out, like 2% of it has anything to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
Like a car accident, they're stressed, they can't afford to put gas in their car or whatever the situation is. So to be able to make sure you're not getting too involved.
Cool. All right. So going off that point, share with us some of the things in maybe the last 12 to 18 months that you've changed in your business because of those trends.
I mean, I would say the biggest part is making a leap of finding that person to come in and be the people manager that can support the team. I end up being a little bit too process driven of just, follow the steps and not that person. So, when we met at Broker Owner last year, like we were chatting about some potential recruiting possibilities and trying to figure that out. So luckily I was able to find that person on my own. And now it's just making sure that we have the right coaches in place to set her up for success and now have that person where the team has somebody that they can rely on to get the support that they need quickly, get the reassurance, and then also continue to coach them up. So that would be the biggest one, is having somebody on the team to coach the employees and the rest of the team to be the human aspect of the business. We're continuing to bring in more and more resources to ensure everybody else is set up. So we've found some different training platforms for the team to use at their discretion. We've got, a second consultant coming in to meet with the team and coach them and ensure that processes make sense. So really leaning into the expertise that, the property management industry is just awesome. Like everybody's willing to help and there's so many resources out there. So realizing what we don't know, putting our ego aside and, build that team that can help. There's a lot out there.
Yeah, side note here, but it does feel like our generation is the generation of like the niche expert, and especially in a multi-billion industry like property management. I think in the past, people would just looped in property management and real estate, but property management is its own decentralized, fragmented, multi-billion dollar industry. So it does seem like there's an expert for everything. And that's not a dig at all. But, we know a lot of the same people, Profit Coach, some other great groups and training. So it seems like you're really taking advantage of a lot of those like highly niche experts to fix certain specific aspects of your team. I think that's really admirable. And ego is not a word I think of when I think of you, man, because a lot of the stuff you're saying, a lot of people would not implement because they think they could do it themselves. It sounds like you've been kicked in the teeth enough to realize like, nah, I'm not doing this myself.
Yeah. I mean, it took a while to get there, because otherwise, whether it's just, growing up Midwest, like you fix everything yourself. The concept of hiring somebody to do something at our house growing up was just unheard of. So it took a while to get here, but now there's like another layer to it of we've got a great team. We brought on Kelly Segredo to help the team and we're super excited for that. But even like this week, like my email inbox is almost empty most days. I'm starting to question, like, what do I actually do here? So I think ego creeps up at any point, but you got to figure it out. So as we found a phenomenal salesperson a year and a half ago, if we didn't hire Rent Scale to be her trainer and her support system, like that person is too good to work for me without somebody else. Like I wouldn't be able to coach that person to that level. And I would have lost an A player because I didn't get them the support they needed. So I am over leaning into experts, but it seems to be working for us right now.
Yeah. And Ed, so like now that, the business, it sounds like the focus on the people and the processes and all that makes a lot of sense. For you guys, are you guys thinking about like, hey, how do we grow to the next stage? Like, hey, we got our eye on 800,000 doors, or is it just like, we want to run a really tight ship at 500 and that can be extremely profitable?
Right now, we want to run a really tight ship at 500. We do have a lot of stuff to work on. It's been a huge year of change. Like I started the year letting 2 long-term teammates go. Like one guy had been with me for 10 and a half years and it's just hard decisions, but like we just weren't able to get past a plateau. We've got a lot of stuff to figure out in our maintenance department. So there's a lot of stability that needs to happen. Like aren't making all these investments and changes because life is sunshine and rainbows. So over the next 6 months to a year, it's really stabilize it, make sure it works, make sure we've got the right, seats on the bus and the right people in those seats. And then once that's done, we'll get back to the growth mode, but be able to figure it out and make sure we're doing it intentionally of if we jump to 800 doors and we need now like another level of management in there, is that extra layer of management going to get paid for with that growth? Or are we just going to break even on it? And now I've got another large salary, more risk for the same level of profit on my end. Like,
Yeah.
what's the benefit of it?
Yeah. I think that, yeah. And shout out like for the fifth time to Profit Coach, like Brad at Profit Coach talks a lot about that. I've heard him, multiple times talk about like, what are you trying to achieve? Like, what is the goal? If the goal is to exit, yeah, maybe you want to, drive the door count up and the revenue and, you could exit for a higher amount. But yeah, I think that matter. It's what do you want? It's just like a simple question, but what do you want?
Yeah, we don't have an answer right now. I mean, we're doing our 2-day offsite with our executive coach in a couple weeks here. So really looking into coming out of that experience with a little bit more clarity on what the plan is. But ultimately, yeah, we want to make sure we're figuring that out, not just growing just for growth's sake. So I can go to a conference and say we got up to 1,000 doors.
Yeah. And you've got the maintenance business as well. I mean, we haven't dug into that a bit, much, but with 500 doors, the maintenance business that's a whole other operation, so, anyone that runs their own maintenance company on top of the property management business at that scale knows that is, that's two substantial businesses kind of working hand in hand there.
Yeah. And you get Indianapolis. I mean, we've got an old housing stock in kind of the Rust Belt Midwest area. So, and then you also deal with that weather that just beats the homes up more. So, and then we do a lot still in that C-class market. So a lot of deferred maintenance. And with these houses, like, it's really hard to decide like when are you finished? Because even with a brand new house, like you could keep working on it forever. So I feel like that's been the hardest part on the maintenance side of it, but I'm starting to figure it out again and it's going well.
Yeah, nothing worse than the little bungalow at the basement with clay sewage line collapsing and sewage backup. That's a very Midwest thing that we experience.
Yeah, that seems to be getting worse and worse. Milwaukee's got, lead issues still with lead pipes and, the city's kind of tackling it, but it's still a lot of people look to the landlord as the person that's supposed to deal with it. So yeah, more and more we're having to come to clients with large, like $20,000 to $30,000 problems that they weren't expecting. So kind of figuring out how to navigate that.
So it seems like you have a lot going on. You're laying a lot of framework and foundation for a big 2026. You also have a baby on the way. What are you most excited about with your business in 2026 with all that you have going on right now, in some ways preparing for that?
A lot right now is a lot of stress, but we're super excited of, I think, come early March, our company's going to look almost completely different. So things have been working, but the last kind of big reorg we did was, probably in that 2020 era. Like, what did you have to change during COVID to make sure you keep functioning? And that was one of the heavy lifts on process with implementing Need Simple. And since then, we've just been tweaking stuff as we needed to change or employees have changed, but it hasn't come with much of a long-term mindset. So we're currently preparing to basically tear it down to the studs and rebuild almost everything. So we really like our team and we think everybody here has a place on a bus, but we want to figure out what are the right seats that we need and get people in the right areas, readjust the system so that way the process meets the human side of it, ensure we got the right tools. And it's exciting right now because, we have a very clear end date. As quickly as Courtney came on to start helping, she's going to be out with the new baby come April. So it's nice to have an end zone of you got to hit this finish line because the kid's going to come or not and got to figure it out. So without that clarity, I think it would be more stressful.
Yeah, something's in the water on this podcast because my wife just had a baby a month ago. Matt's wife is 6 months pregnant? And Ed, you mentioned Courtney being pregnant too. So that definitely creates a sense of urgency. And there's a lot you can squeeze in when you don't have a lot of time. So well done on that, man.
Yeah, our co-founder Chuck, he's got a baby due next month, and he's freaking out because he's saying next month now, like right when it hit November 1st, he's like, oh my gosh, this is happening. So yeah, something's in the water. I don't know what it is, but
the big thing for me is like when the milk expiration date goes past the due date, you're kind of like, okay, this is getting real. Like I'm going to have a baby before this thing starts smelling sour. And that's when that's when the sweat started.
yeah, well, then for you, Dylan, it was like you anticipated. I don't know exactly what the due date was, but it felt like you guys were ready for that last baby to come for like a month. And
yeah, yeah, long story there, but we were like 10 days overdue. So that 10 days before and after, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, you'd rather not. So I think we'll do a planned induction and just have it scheduled.
That's an experienced property manager. Like that's a prepared property management response there.
Surprises.
Well, good stuff. So I do want to talk, you've mentioned this a couple of times, just about, once again, the internal processes. It's not a unfiltered episode without somebody mentioning AI. We try not to be the first people who mentioned it, but let's camp out there for a little bit before we land the plane. How are you implementing it right now? How are you thinking about it? And just in general, what would you say to someone who is doing it or thinking about doing it in their business?
Yeah, we're pretty JV in it so far. Like we haven't done a ton, kind of leaning into ChatGPT to help us answer better emails and that kind of thing. Just started using like Fixer AI to improve some of that automation, but it's not really my area. Like I find it interesting, but being the guy that has to go put it together, and I also just get nervous or like I don't want to waste my time of like, all right, I'm going to implement this, and then tomorrow something else is going to come out that's going to completely replace it, and I'll just be angry. So my approach has been leaning into the partners in the industry, propertymanagement.com, helping us get on the ChatGPT responses when people are searching and be focused on that. Matt's a lot smarter at it than I will ever be. So why would I waste my time if I can just connect with you? And then, looking at the other software platforms of who's leading the edge. And that's a lot that we're going to do this winter of changing tools of, what tool do we have to move to that is going to keep us on the cutting edge of it. And we can just grab the cheat codes and, save our time and frustration.
Yeah, I mean, welcome home, Milwaukee, number 16 right now on the top 100.
Nice.
Number 1 in Milwaukee. So yeah, I remember when I was going on my AI search rants with you, I could see your eyes glaze over. You're like, dude, just handle this for us, So I appreciate you having trust in us on that. So.
Yeah, you got to recognize when somebody's putting so much effort in, is interested, and is clearly, smarter at that area. Like, why compete? I guess is my thought on a lot of the AI stuff. I mean, it's just changing so fast that I think you do need people that are just specialized in it.
Yeah, just to walk down memory lane, Ed, you're one of the first people that we even told about propertymanage.com because Matt, the conversation started with Matt getting the domain at broker owner only like 7 or 8 months ago, which is crazy. And then on the text stream with all the state guys, you're one of the first people that we even pitched different business ideas to. So man, appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, sending the text. I was like, I think we got propertymanagement.com, and everybody like meeting all these new people. Everyone's like, I don't know, that sounds sketchy. Is that real? What's going on here? And so it's kind of funny to go from broker owner and almost into 2025 here.
Yeah, I remember Dylan mentioning it. He's seen I'm like, I don't even know if you know what you're talking about. Yeah, like
I didn't.
Like, but you're like, don't tell anybody. I'm like, I don't even know what I would say, but congrats. So and it goes quick. Like again, why compete? Let somebody else is just going to go at this lightning speed and have it up in less than a year. So
it's wild. Well, Ed, appreciate you joining us, man. We'll start landing the plane here. We've added a new question to our lightning round. I'm not trying to come out of left field. I don't think we've prepped you on this one, but owning, starting, buying, and just working in property management in general is not for the faint of heart. Share with us how being in this world and owning a business in this world has changed you as a person the last 5-10 years.
Oh, man. I think I've gotten more patient with things it's an industry that is going to always be filled with mistakes, whether reasonable mistakes or unreasonable. And if you can't handle that and be patient with the team, the tenant, the investor. I think that is some of the issues I had on the early end of like, just didn't have the patience. I was expecting some level of perfection in a very imperfect industry. So the patience is the biggest thing I think I've picked up on.
It sounds like I asked you about fatherhood too. That same answer could have applied to that as well.
Yeah, we'll see. I guess I'm still only a year into that, but it's probably helping to put some more clarity on it. I think being in fatherhood now, I have much more patience for employees, tenants, and stuff of like, yeah, I think I might have been an asshole in the past.
Yeah, crying baby or crying tenant. I don't know which one you would prefer.
Ooh, that's tough.
Ooh, I'll go baby. I don't know if I can.
I think I would go baby too.
Yeah,
More
That is a good
control.
answer.
More control there.
Matt, anything you want to share before we go to the lightning round?
No, I don't think so. I was thinking about a toddler. I was like, you can spank a toddler, but not a tenant. So yeah, I think that
It's become a parenting podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure a property manager has tried in the past, but imagine it goes
Yeah.
over well.
All right, Ed, quick fire questions here. You've mentioned a lot of great service providers and apps, even on this call. We try to be we're not a pay for play podcast, but we always love when people get shout outs in the industry. So you mentioned some great ones and some friends of the pod. But right now, what is your favorite tool or app for your business? And this does not have to be a specific PM tool.
I've been playing with Fixer AI for a couple months, just trying to get more ahead of the email game. And also just I'm not a super professional person, so sometimes my email responses are a little too casual for what people are looking for these days. So that tool has kind of helped lift it up without me having to do a ton of work. So that'd be kind of one easy lift, and has helped some of the team that we've started let use it as well.
Yeah, you check that one out. And
Yeah,
what about
I think that one's been referenced a couple times, at least once, because I always pull it up and I've seen this one. But yeah, get back an hour every day. I mean, there you go. So yeah, I'd recommend checking that one out.
a book or podcast every PM leader should check out right now?
I just reread Essentialism.
Ooh.
So I read it the first time like 10 years ago, whenever it came out. And there's just so many options. Like so many coaches come in the industry, so many new tools, so many new AI options. Like we mentioned, of what are you growing for, and just making sure there's a clear reason of why you're going after this. So that reading that book to prep for the changes we're making has been super helpful for me.
Yeah, the 1-2 punch of essentialism and one thing. They're both books. Like there's nothing new in those books. They're just so good.
Yeah. And getting those principles, because the technology is going to keep adapting and changing and growing. There's going to be more and more people coming at our industry as it becomes more known for the profit center it can be, and just making sure you're grounded in what those basic important things are.
Yeah, this episode will probably come out right before the new year. So great read for December, January.
Yeah.
All right. One word to describe the future of property management.
It's maturity. It's, when we started, if we were in like crappy trucks, just kind of grinding it out, making it happen. I think that was really a lot of what property management was. And now I think there's just more of a sense of maturity, and from the vendor network, from what clients are expecting, what tenants are expecting. And I think that's just going to continue to grow.
Awesome. Well, man, last question. When is baby number 2 Riggenbach coming to the world?
Due date's 4/4, but we're not going to go 10 days over. So we'll probably induce the last week of March.
So you're not going to be a broker owner?
I'm going to miss broker owner this year. Yeah. So
hey, you got to work on your priorities, man. It's in New Orleans.
You gotta work on
New Orleans. Bring a 1.5-year-old and a 2-week-old. What could go wrong?
Yeah, great place for kids.
Yeah. Great time for Bourbon Street. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just hoping Nick Saban doesn't take the LSU job, because I'll never enter that state again.
There you go.
The college football drama heating up here in the South for Dylan.
Yeah. Well, cool, Ed. Hey, really appreciate you being a friend of the pod, a friend of the business, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Best of luck in the business with the family. Tell Courtney we said hello. We met her broker owner last time, and definitely excited for you, man. So thanks again for the time, and we really appreciate it.